Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Military Money Mistakes Live. This is Trevor Maxwell back with you again this week. Was planning on doing a pre-recorded version, but I realized, you know what, I've got the time that I can go do this live before I go to a retirement party today to celebrate the career of a great American. And so, yeah, glad I get to join you today firsthand. Today, I wanted to talk about this because when you talk to anywhere from 5 to 15 people a week that are getting out of the military, you start to pick up a lot of things and notice some patterns, some trends, whatever. And so I wanted to share some of those today. And I thought, you know what, I'll make it simple. I'll pick the top three that I think I tend to hear the most, hear a lot of, or kind of taking everybody's what they tell me and categorizing them. So these are kind of like the top three things in here. And let's see here. Oh, cool. We got Tavares in here. He's already been. Good day to you, sir. Thanks for joining us from Dallas. But before we get into that, wanted to send out the reminder too, if you haven't already, go check out our insiders portal, militaryretirementblueprint.com. That's where we have a ton of information on things, TSP, SBP, investing, life insurance, all the things that you need to address before and after you get out of the military. So check that out. Ton of content in there. Actually, the Military Money Mistakes coaching cohort is hosted inside that space too. Speaking of which, if you want to get into that, you can do that as well. There's a link in the About section down there you can click on to join our pilot group. We're just about to wrap up the beta cohort, and I'll probably have some of the guests. I'll have some guests come on here, people that went through the beta cohort, and kind of get their feedback on it, and so you can hear their perspective on it as well. But if you're not familiar with what that is, Military Money Mistakes is my coaching program that I'm building out. It's designed for career military folks who are within 2 years of retirement that want to get their finances straight. So I will be, as we wrap up the first beta cohort on this, we will start putting out more information on what's to come in the future for that. So check it out if you get the chance. The link is, like I said, the link is down in the About section. So anyways, on to the topic of today. So, I've been doing some research on this in preparation for this reading. Depending on where you look, studies you look at, a lot of times people write articles based off of studies where they summarize them. I'm not a big fan of that. I like to actually go look at the source itself. And so, because I don't like, I see how that works. I know how that stuff goes. A lot of the information we're given in the military, we get from these articles, like the people who are the pros or the subject matter experts. Really, they're going out and Googling some articles on this stuff and putting it out. But so I actually was able to get a hold of some studies looking at this problem. And this is one that really stood out to me, and I wanted to share this with you. Right now, there's about 40% of Americans making over $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. 40% making over $100,000 a year. To me, that's crazy. And there's a bunch of reasons that you can blame. It was the economic downturn. It was COVID, record inflation. I'm not saying that those factors didn't have a hand in that, but I think most often, probably what it comes down to is bad habits. Your lifestyle fills up. You make a certain amount of money, and you feel like your lifestyle has to meet that. So now I get it. There's extenuating circumstances for everybody. People have issues. They have unexpected expenses, things like that they incur. I get that. But, for a lot of people, I think it's just you're spending more than than you really need to. You have to have that bigger house or the newer car. I know that. Guess what? all the stuff that I'm talking about, I have made those mistakes before. And, I kind of learned from those. And that's what this is all about. That's why it's called military money mistakes. I talk about all the dumb stuff I did with money when I was in the military and the opportunity costs of that for me. So, there is some good news on top of that, though. Uh, the average amount of savings for people that were struggling to pay their bills has actually tripled since 2020. The average amount of savings, it went from like $2,400 to like $6,800, so it's almost tripled. I think having some of those situations like COVID, where we have those severe economic downturns and people are losing jobs left and right, that tends to have an effect on individuals to where they say, hey, okay, maybe I do need to curb some of my lifestyle expenditures a little bit. Maybe I need to be a little more thrifty with things because I don't know how much worse this situation is going to get. Well, I think if you have that mindset, even when things are good, guess what? You're going to be a lot better off when things aren't good. But so, things to think about, but really, I, again, too, as I talk about in the about section, when you get out of the military, especially military retirees, you're given this amazing opportunity. You're going to make probably close to at least one and a half, if not twice as much as you were while you were in the military. So we always talk about that. Man, if I made an extra 10,000 a year, if I made an extra 20,000 a year, I would be set. Well, guess what? Now's your chance for that. Unfortunately, what I see and when I talk to people is a lot of times these folks are going in, and instead of taking advantage of those opportunities, they're going out and making, it used to be like, hey, here was my monthly budget and these are my expenses. Well, guess what? Now your money has gone up significantly. I talk about this too when we talk about the budgeting class inside the coaching cohort. Um, guess what? If your budget is here and right now and your expenses meet that and your lifestyle is comfortable, if you're living a comfortable lifestyle, guess what? When this budget goes up here, that old 50-30-20 model of fixed, variable, and expenses and savings, you can significantly modify that right now. Keep your current lifestyle. Like when yeah, I did get a new vehicle when I got out. My car payment didn't change. We stayed in the same house. Actually, I guess it was kind of a little bit worse because I worked a job where I only made commissions. And so the first 2 years out of the military, I only made like $40,000 on that. Now I had some other stuff to provide me income, but I think that was a really good opportunity for me because I was like, okay, I have to live lean now. And guess what? Now I got to the point I started working on my businesses, making more money. I'm still living the same lifestyle that I was before. So, that's kind of like the big thing there is making sure that your lifestyle, your lifestyle stays the same when your opportunity increases. That puts you miles ahead of the majority of the rest of the population of the U.S. So, three biggest things. We'll start talking about them. First one, and I think this is one that's very prevalent, not enough liquid savings. Notice I said liquid savings. That doesn't mean that it all has to be in a savings account, but it should be somewhere where you have access to it if you need it. Especially, typically the advice I give people, me personally, I keep a couple months worth of expenses in my checking account. Anything over that, I have it in liquid investments, stuff that I can get access to very quickly if I need it within a few days. But so, and I have adequate, I didn't adjust my lifestyle. So guess what? My expenses stayed the same. So now if I get into money, if I need to have an unexpected expense, I can cover that easily. So my big thing with that, like if you're within 24 months out and you don't have that, start building it as quickly as possible. And so here's something else too to consider. If you have any kind of bad debt, when I talk about bad debt, I'm talking about like credit cards, payday loans, Um, student loans, mortgages, car payments. Those are things that I think you can manage. Hopefully, you should be able to manage those. Student loans, if your student loans are higher than 6%, I would definitely look at going back and trying to refinance those. Most of the time, from what I've seen, interest rates you can get them anywhere from 2 to 4%, depending on where you go to find refinance. But so yeah, definitely take a round turn on that. Make sure you get the lowest interest rate possible on that. But things like credit cards, yes, you want to pay those off as quickly as possible. But you may be stuck in that position of saving versus paying off credit cards. Well, I guess the best advice I can give you there is like that's an individual situation that is for a general forum like this. I'm not going to tell you what to do specifically, except you're going to have to weigh those two things out. Maybe you take whatever extra income you have and put half of that towards one and half towards the other. Because what you don't want to do is, yes, if I pay all my credit cards off and I don't have any money saved and now I have some kind of unexpected expense, I don't want to have to go back into I don't want to have to go back into debt, like using my credit cards again, because I didn't have any money saved to cover some of those unexpected expenses. So definitely, that's a one-on-one discussion type thing. So if you have somebody that you're working with or you need help, hey, I don't mind, spending 10 or 15 minutes with somebody, helping them make a decision about stuff like that. How much you need, it depends on a lot of different factors. What do your expenses look like? Uh, 6 months worth of expenses is a good start. However, maybe you have other things planned. Maybe you're going to do like maybe you have something like a big purchase planned here in the future and you need to address that. Well, guess what? That's something that you want to look at as well. So if you have your savings, any planned expenses on top of that, guess what? That's going to be in addition to your savings, not a part of your savings, because you don't, obviously we're saving this money so that you have money for unexpected expenses. I always, I like to share the story about my retirement. I didn't get my pension for like 2.5 months after I retired. The big thing with that was bad for me was I was in a job where I was making commissions. I wasn't making any money. I had a bunch of money saved up, so that was a huge benefit to me. When I got out, I was able to cover all of my expenses till I finally got my pension, and it was another 2.5 months. It took me 5 months after I retired to get my VA disability rating. So, I was able to not carry any big expenses or anything like that, or make any new purchases, which set me up in a good position for that. So, not enough liquid savings. If you're 24 months out, start doing that. Depending on how fast you want to do it, as far as do you stop making contributions to retirement accounts or whatever. Like I said, those are personalized discussions. I'm not going to tell you to do one or the other here on this kind of very general forum. The next thing is a lot of people underestimate their costs that they're going to incur as they transition out. The problem with that is that could cause you to incur more of that bad debt. Like, oh no, this costs a lot more than I thought it would. I'm going to have to put it on my credit card now. Well, of course, we know that gets you back into the hole. So I guess probably the best way whatever you think it's going to cost, it's been my experience, especially like things like home repairs. Whenever I think, or vacations or whatever, however much I think it's going to cost, it typically costs somewhere between 1.5 to 2 times as much as that. So when you're figuring out your costs for things that you're going to need, multiply it by at least 1.5, if not more. The other thing you need to do is balance out what are the things that I need to have versus what are the things that are nice to have. Yes, it would be nice to have a brand new car, but I don't need it right now. The car I have now will get me to where I need to go. My kid needs braces. Okay, yeah, I could see that. You need that. My kid is going to school. That's something that we need to address. Well, once you get out too, we'll have another discussion about benefits in another episode. But those are two very different things. Like mom needs to go, or I need to get this surgery, and there's some expenses not covered by whatever. Balancing it out versus like, yeah, it would be nice, to have a bigger house. 2,500 square feet ain't as big as it used to be, right? Because of inflation. So that was a total like. I hear people justify these things all the time. I promise you that whatever that expense was, or whatever that thing was, the thing that you want to have, chances are it's still going to be there on the other side of your transition when you get set up, when you get into a good place. You'll still have the opportunity to go out and get those nice to have things. And then probably the biggest one, this is the number one, I would say, post-retirement spending. Definitely probably the most prevalent factor. I've already addressed that a little bit, right? Inflating your lifestyle to meet your new supply of income, versus not using it as an opportunity to accumulate assets to get you in a better place, to where now, yes, I'm working for my money, but guess what? Now I've saved up enough money to where that's working on saving me money as well. Opportunity costs. Guess what? I mean, that new car, it's not going to be new in a few years. Keep driving the one that you got until it dies, or maybe you're in a spot where it's like, hey, I'm in a good place. I'm going to buy that new vehicle now. Don't do it right away. Wait at least a year after you get out, because that's the other thing too. We talk about with veterans and jobs. Something like 40% of people leave their first job within the first year, and 80% leave their job within the second year. So make sure you're kind of maintaining that frugality at least a year after retirement as well. That doesn't mean you can't still enjoy your life. You could still go out and go to vacations, like whatever. You want to take the kids somewhere. You want to take your wife to Hawaii because you guys have been all these years you've spent, not doing things together because of your, the military lifestyle. You could still do that, but, plan for it. And make sure that you're also addressing these other goals first. Planning for that stuff, major purchases, do a timeline. Like that's budgeting, right? We talk about that all the time. We hear this all the time, the defense budget, right? We've all done that at the end of the year. Hey, we have to project what are our next year's expenses. What are the things coming up? What are the big, yes, we want to buy a house. We don't need a new house right now. Let's wait 2 or 3 years, or we're moving. We need a new house right now. What's the plan for that? The other piece too is being efficient with your resources. Not, again, I talk about this all the time. This is one where I differ, where I butt heads with a lot of the people that are referred to as gurus. They're not financial gurus. What they are is marketing gurus. And you're not their client. You're their product. Their clients are the people who pay them for access to you, right? So understand that, right? When people are telling you pay off everything, you have to have that conversation of, hey, what is the most efficient use of my resources? And a lot of times when you're talking about paying off your car early, like why would you, if I gave you, if you bought some stocks and I told you like the day after you buy these, they're immediately going to decrease 20% in value. And then every year they're going to be worth 15% loss. Would you pay me up front for all of the? Probably not, right? So why are you doing that with a car? Think about that. What's the opportunity cost of my decision? Hey, instead of paying my car off early, or instead of paying my house off early, I'm going to go out and build assets. I want to have, I don't care if I have a $500,000 mortgage, if I have $500,000, in investments right now too. Guess what? I could pay that off whenever I want it. But I think you're in a lot better position there versus like having a paid off house and no money in investments. So, look at the efficiency of those decisions too. And then this is the last one. that I'll leave on here with the post-retiring spending. Try to avoid what I like to call compounding bad decisions. And what do I mean by that? It's that tendency that people have to say, well, I made this decision, I'm going to stick with it. Guess what? Whenever you figure out that you've made a bad decision and you decide to stick with it, instead of changing course and hey, I'm going to cut my losses and go, that is what I call a compounding bad decision, or making additional bad decisions on top of that. Just because we get into that frame of mind where we're like, well, screw it, I'm already in a bad spot anyway, so I might as well do all these other things. You don't have to do that. Be cognizant of that and understand what it is that you're doing so you can avoid it. I know it's tough to do. It takes discipline. It takes motivation. You have to have a clear vision of like, hey, here's my ultimate goal, right? This is what I'm in pursuit of. So I'm going to stick with it. Even if I make a mistake, guess what? I can get back up and keep going. So yeah, that's what we're all about with the coaching cohort, talking about all these things, and helping give you the knowledge and hopefully the motivation that you need in order to put yourself in a better position to where when you've been out for a year or 2 years, now you're able to make a lot of these decisions for yourself with confidence. So that's it for today. Again, to the pilot quote, if you're interested in joining the pilot group, we'll probably start in about 6 weeks, like a month after we finish the beta group, because we got a lot of things to do after we wrap with the beta group. But the link to that is in the about section. And again, too, check out right here on the screen there, militaryretirementblueprint.com. Go in there, check it out. It's our portal. We have a ton of information in there that you need about some of these big decisions that you're facing when you're getting out of the military. So I hope that was helpful, beneficial. Feel free to comment in there. Shoot me a DM, whatever, if you have questions about any of the stuff I talked about. Again, too, I love to share information. So please feel free to hit me up, and we'll see you next week. Take care.